if I could have your attention, please. It's now 1:30. If for those able, please rise and we'll begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Today is Thursday, May 8th. This is the Golf Committee meeting. I'm now calling it to order at 1:30 p.m. We have a quorum. We've gone through the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll now read the meeting minute procedures. The governing board and its committees conduct all their meetings in compliance with the Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804 and in concert with the Rec Center's Sun City West bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures are outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with bylaw 3.07 and standing rules number 2 and 3. Thank you. Our first order of business. Minutes from the April 10th meeting. Minutes were distributed to all the members. Do I have any recommended changes, corrections, or additions? Seeing none, the minutes will be posted as presented. Our first order of business, 3.01, golf operations. Mr. Pat O'Hara.
Thanks. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I have a few slides to recap the last 30 days here in golf ops. Weather's been pretty nice. All right, we had our last event of our scheduled 12 events or so for 24-25. Swing into spring. We had 100 players. We sold it out. Played it on May 3rd over at Trail Ridge. As you can see the breakout of 72 men and 26 ladies, and we actually had added another 2 men to play to that as well. Couple winners, Pat Kinnavan and Mark Masterson. They play in quite a few of our events. I would say they play in, to answer one of our committee members' questions, they play in over 50% of our events. Kat and Marissa maybe play in a couple a year. In fact, I think this was the first one for Catherine, so it was good to see her play. This last month, we had our 5th annual Men's 4-Club Championship. This is a tournament we put together a few years ago. It takes the club champion of each of the 4 regulation men's clubs, and they play it off 18 holes, stroke play, no handicap. This year we played it over at Deer Valley on Saturday, April 12th. And Pat Kinnavan and Troy Williams tied at 72. It was pretty exciting because Troy birdies 18 to tie Pat's par, and then both parred number 1, and then Troy parred number 2 to win the title. So that was a nice end to the event. This also wrapped up our green team tournament event for this year as well. We do one in early in the year, and then we also finish it out in April. We had this over. This was over at Stardust. It was a 7 o'clock shotgun start. Had 80 players playing this. Good turnout. As you can see, the rest of the schedule for the green team for May and June, and they're still getting a pretty good following. Wanted to give you a final report on our call center. We've noticed a drop in calls this last year due to the fact that our residents are more inept in the portal. They're getting very comfortable running those changes and putting in lottery requests. So we saw a drop in calls, and with that, we wanted to react on the expense side by cutting back on hours worked. The hours of the day stayed the same, but the number of people were reduced. So when we saw slow times, we eliminated or removed one of the employees to that shift, and we were able to recapture 10% less hours for this year. Although the calls went 18% less. We were happy to report that there was less wait on the phone calls and less missed calls. So we try to be proactive with that. Want to remind everybody, this time of year we don't have players' assistants out on the golf courses. And so a lot of the things that get done during a round of golf are going to be thrown back to both the staff, the starters, and the golfers. You know, golfers are responsible for their pace of play and sanding divots, raking the bunkers and the like. So we're just a reminder to ask everybody to do their part while they're out there so the golf course will remain in great shape. And then, of course, we've got the medical cart flag rule and our regular cart rules. So just asking everybody to kind of police their group so that we have a great set of courses going through the summer months. And that is my report.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone, any questions?
Pat, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the rationale of no players' assistance in the summer, particularly during prime time?
It's been the thought process is to have PAs out there during peak times when it's real busy. As the summer progresses, we didn't want to spend the money because rounds go down significantly. Would love to have them out there.
Pat, so are you saying you don't have the budget to do it?
We have a budget for the PAs. It's not large enough to include that many hours in the summer. Correct. We'd have to increase it.
The call center ended April 30th. When does it resume?
We have resumed both the PAs and the call centers at the same time. When we go into overseating and we have that compaction problem, we bring both of those back, one to make it easier to book tee times and one to manage the pace of play. So typically it's been at the end of September.
Anyone else? Anyone else with comments or questions? Anyone in the audience? We have anyone online? No. Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Environmental Services, Mr. Todd Patty.
All right, good afternoon. Just a couple updates today. I'm going to start with the Echo Mesa project. If you've been over there, you can see there's a lot of activity. You can see that off of the roadway. So anyway, to date, holes 6 through 9 have been completed with the installation and irrigation. That's the main line, the laterals, the heads, the valves, and everything. In fact, we're watering those holes with the new system, along with the chipping green area in the driving range tee and the driving range floor. So they're moving pretty good. Before I came over, they put a timeline together on where they would be on the installation of the irrigation, and it looks like they're about 1 week ahead of schedule right now, which is good. They missed a day last week because of the rain. It was just too muddy out there for them to work, so they went home. So that's a good thing, and especially in the event if we have some more rain days during the monsoon season, we should be fine and meet that. I think it's August 29th is our completion date, so we should be in good shape. Next week, Site Works, they'll be out putting down the rock and installing plant material and some trees, and that will be out in front of the pro shop in the chipping green area, and then they'll work backwards on 9. So you should that should start to look a little bit better. I know it looks pretty barren over there right now with no grass and just the dirt area. So that's going to take shape next week. So just a few other things that we're doing on the golf course outside of the irrigation project. We did a tee box renovation on number 3 where we dropped that down by about 2.5, maybe 3 feet. We took off all the soil on the top. We dropped it down. We were looking at maybe dropping that down to car path level, but it was creating a drainage issue if we were to take it that far down. So we had to consider that. So it still has a little bit of a slope. The picture on the right-hand side, you can see how steep that slope is. And it was a real issue during the winter months when it would get wet. It would stay wet all day and it got slippery. A lot of that had to do with the shade from for the pine trees in the area. And then this is just, you can see some work going on. You can see how much dirt that we're generating from that tee area. And again, all this material is staying on the golf course. I think all this went in that grass bunker over on number 9. That thing's completely filled in, that first part. The other part, I think by the time we finish the project, that'll be all flattened out. But we're doing some final grade there on the picture on the right-hand side, and you can see where we've staked for the irrigation heads. And so we're going to sod that entire T complex with that Tahoma sod, and we'll do that in about a month. And then we did a driving range T leveling project. We came in, we top dressed it real heavy. It wasn't that far out of shape, but it did have some depression areas, some high areas. So you can see that we brought an outsourced company in. They have the laser leveling equipment to do that. They floated that out. The picture in the middle, you can see that was on the 14th. That was 7 days later. You can see some of the grass is starting to grow back. And then I took this picture this morning, and you can see it's almost recovered. I'd say in the next couple of weeks with the warm weather that we're going to have in the next couple of days. And that's all Bermuda. We sprayed that out, so we killed all the ryegrass in the beginning. So that's all Bermuda out there. So that's a good thing. So it's just going to continue to fill in. And then the turf conversion over on number 9 fairway, you can see on the 7th, looks pretty good. It's still green and everything. We sprayed that the day before we closed, and you can see 14 days later, it's completely dead. We sprayed that with Roundup. So that's just part of the process to get rid of all the grass, all the old common Bermuda grass, before we install the Tahoma or the Tiff Tuff on those fairways. And then you can see we came in and we aerified that several times. We scalped it down a little bit. We swept it. We verticut it. We still have a little bit more work to do on that to prepare a seed bed. But we had the contractors out last week, and they thought we could put sprigs on that right now. It's ready, but still have a little bit more to do. So the Tiff Tuff sod, about 12,000 square feet. That will be on the green complex, and we'll do that first on July 8th. And then the next day, we'll put 100,000 square feet of sprigs of the Tiff Tuff on the fairway. And so we'll fertilize it quite a bit. After we get those down, we'll roll it, so we should be in good shape and towards September for that. And remember, that's a fairway that we're not going to overseed it this first year. We're just going to let it go, and we'll fertilize it. We'll keep it good and healthy going into the winter months. And then again, the test is to see how does it hold up to the cart traffic and play. So, all right, and then the greens that were vandalized last year over at Echo Mesa, we had about 8 of the greens, and this is number 8 green, and you can see we are starting to get some Bermuda grass recovery on those areas. And then you can see at the bottom there, April 30th, it's really filled in. So that's a good sign. The other part of that, we were concerned that maybe there was something in the spray on those greens that would prevent us from germinating ryegrass. So we took some plugs out of number 8 green, brought them into the shop. We put some ryegrass seed on them. We've been watering them by hand every morning. And as you can see, we're getting some pretty good germination. So that's a good sign. So we should be in great shape when we reopen after the overseeding. And then the USGA site visit report, Brian Whitlark was out last month, and we went over to Grandview, Echo Mesa, and Deer Valley. It was just a half-day visit. And so I just wanted to review the executive summary that came out on that, and that's posted on our website. So just a few highlights. We talked about staff levels, and we found that, we run between 10 and 12 staff members on our golf courses, which is at the low point or the midway point on the low range. So we are below what he's seeing on the other golf courses out in the valley and in the region. We talked about equipment replacement program. He was really complimentary of our replacement program that we had, and recommended that we continue that replacement program every year during the budget process. Transition, he was impressed with the amount of Bermuda that we have out there on the fairways this time of the year. We still have a long ways to go, and that's all weather related. And as I was telling a couple of you earlier that the cool weather that we've had over the last couple of days favors the ryegrass and not so much the Bermuda grass. But we're going to warm up over the weekend, and hopefully that'll be our last cool spell, and we'll get some Bermuda growth going out there. But It's always a tough time of the year for us. We're going to have weak areas. We're going to have thin areas out there. That's just part of the deal. They fill in within 3 or 4 weeks. And so, that's part of overseeding and transition. We talked about our overseeding dates. And so we've made some changes to the 2026 overseeding schedule where we're going to start overseeding in October, not the last part of September, because it's just too hot. And I feel that we actually lose ryegrass on those first courses because of the heat. So we're going to move that up, and it's going to be a 3-week closure and 1 week on the cart paths for the first 4 courses, and then we'll go to the 4 weeks for the last 3 courses. So again, that's in 2026. We talked about trees and the decline of pine trees over the last couple of summers. I think that's going to continue with the heat. We are planting new trees. We've got quite a few trees going in at Echo Mesa, and we're still planting trees over at Grandview. And he was very complimentary of our water conservation efforts, our programs that we have, the turf removal, the irrigation installation and replacement. So he seemed to think that we were far ahead of other golf courses in the area with our programs. Good. So anyway, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Todd. Any questions, comments? Todd?
Sorry. I found it interesting in the report that because you're understaffed according to the benchmarks, I guess, of some other courses, that you either need to staff up or lower the expectation of the golfers in the community. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think we need to try to figure out how to staff up a little bit better. Absolutely. In that. I just found that a little unsettling.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a little bit about outsourcing some work, and we already do that as it is. But I think we're gonna look at that a little bit harder and see if we can do that if we're not getting employees in the door on staff.
So Todd, how many open positions do you have right now for your ground crew?
I believe we have 6 as of today. I think we have 6 open positions.
So is that normally about where it runs? I know you have trouble in the summertime staffing folks.
Yeah, that's kind of where we run, about 6, and then in the summertime, I think we're going to see that even increase a little bit.
There is a comment online. This is from Frank Bagnato, 117679. If one is playing in a foursome, how should we be expected to keep up with a twosome playing in front? So anyway, there's a couple answers to that have come online. One is, Frank, it's simple. You just play faster and stop hooking it to high heaven. And then another comment by Ryan Benedetti, no number. Leave Frank alone, he's got enough going on. And then this other comment, clearly not enough if he has time to reply to YouTube chats. The board has enough on their hands, no need to waste time there with silly questions. And then Mr. Benedetti comes back again. Anyway, you guys bring up the disaster on the 5th hole. I'm not sure what that's referring to. And Google came back and said, now that's something we can agree on. Wasn't it Frank who caused that dilemma? Kind of a strange exchange.
Right. Twosome would play faster than a foursome. It all depends on, there's an ebb and flow to this round of golf, as we all know. We wouldn't require a twosome to play or a foursome to play as fast as a twosome early in the day. But as the day progresses, that foursome, that grouping is always going to have a twosome and foursome intermixed in there. So as the day progresses, the rate of play always works its way back to that of a foursome. So a twosome's going to have some waiting time if they're behind a bunch of foursomes. And early in the morning, if a twosome's the first one off, they're going to play in less than 4 hours, which is a great thing. If a foursome's the first one off, we'd like to see them play less than 4 hours, but we understand that they're going to be challenged getting around. So it's measured both where you are physically in the round versus other groups and quantitatively by looking at a rate sheet. So it can be tough at times.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience? We've had our online questions answered. Oh, please, Julie.
Todd, is there any time frame at all to the Grandview not playing out of the, or playing out of the gravel?
Yes, we're gonna lift that after overseeding. We'll do that, yes.
Seeing no one else looking to make a comment or have a question, we'll move on to the next item, which is of interest to a lot of us. 4.01, an update on the range ball machine relocation, and Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So you see some sports up here that are not golf. This is just a smattering sampling of decibel levels of noise that you would hear in different places in the community. Golf has got the higher ones with the driver. The driver is actually the highest sporting noise. It can be up to 120 even. And believe it or not, Cardinal Stadium, if you were there on a rally when they're coming back and playing really good and going to win the game, that could be 130 decibels. So you have different comparisons. The idea of just sampling this is to share that these are sounds that you would be customary to hearing if you went bowling or you played pool or you played golf. And what brings us here is that piece of machinery in the middle. And if you can imagine yourself sitting within 5 feet of that after your round of golf and you're enjoying your favorite drink and a snack and conversation, your conversation is going to be probably somewhere between 60 to 70 decibels, maybe higher depending on who you're with. But nonetheless, the more fun you have, you might even get louder. But you might forget that you're sitting next to that. And when someone goes to get the range balls out, it hits 90 decibels. And that's why we're here, because there's a customer or a member experience we're aiming for. And that has interfered with some folks in the moment when that went out of the machine into the basket. So the member experience can be improved, and that's what I'm going to tell you how much it costs to improve it. I wish I could tell you how much, well, I could, but I'm not gonna. How much a decibel cost. But anyways, we'll go to the next slide. This is how much it costs. So we've got 7 golf courses, 2 of which already have the machines moved, and those need enclosures around them. The enclosures, total cost all in is $10,050. If you're starting from scratch, you're bringing the electrical out, and you're building the enclosure, those are the various costs. That goes from $27,000 to $31,000. So, and where you're moving these, here's a snapshot. They're small pictures, but you get the idea. The yellow boxes with the text you probably can't read are approximately 75 feet to 100, somewhere in between there from the pro shop. And every 50 feet, you're going to gain about 10 decibels. So it's going to get 15 decibels quieter where we're moving these dispensers to. That decibel level brings you down to conversational levels. So it wouldn't interfere. So you'd get your basket of balls out there by the range, and the folks would still have a wonderful experience inside after or on the patio, and not be interfered with as far as noise disruption. You might find it interesting. Because I just want to give you facts. I don't come down on either side, right? So you guys get to decide that. So here's one fact. It's really interesting. The Maricopa County Noise Ordinance. Maricopa County has determined that it is in the best interest of its citizens to control noise in a manner which promotes commerce, the use, value, and enjoyment of property, which is really essentially what we want our members and folks of the community to enjoy. This goes on to say we'd love folks to enjoy sleep and repose. Obviously, nobody's snoozing on the course, but they're reposing when they're having a drink and having a good time afterwards. It is hereby declared to be the policy of Maricopa County to prohibit excessive, unnecessary, disruptive, and annoying noises from all sources. Those are all subjective kinds of adjectives for noise. I don't think this is a major problem, but because nobody's in any health and safety danger. It's just a moment for someone, or in the future possibly, to be disrupted as far as their quality of life and their member experience, which is what we're trying to support. So this is what we would build. I know I'm jumping back and forth, but the enclosure is two-sided, so it's open on either side because you have to load the golf balls in from the top. It's got to be tall enough to load the golf balls in, but it also, you want it pretty tight so that it's not kind of an eyesore, you know, sticking out like a sore thumb. So we've got it architecturally designed, pleasant to aesthetically, and that was the goal. The black piece in the middle is a structural item since we don't have four walls, so that kind of holds the thing together. It's got a concrete slab of its own. What you don't see is the thickened edge you'd have to have of concrete, like a footing. So there's a lot that goes into just building this. And I know folks like to think of small projects, they think of small costs, but usually the unit costs go up, and that's why you end up paying so much for so little. The electrical, if you can imagine, this is Deer Valley, so the electric room is kind of on the front side in the garage area. So you'd have to go through the building, and by the time you get to the lot, so through the building, down a column, through the planter, through the driveway, through the turf, to the new location for the dispenser. You could be anywhere from 150 to 250 feet of conduit, and the farther you get, wire goes up in cost. And anyways, there are some others that there's a couple that are even further, and that's why you see the costs go up on some of those golf courses. That's why, because the power is really being spread out at a good distance. So that kind of gives you an idea. On this bullet point, just walk through the scope of the electrician. They're also providing the patch back at the parking lot, whether it's concrete or asphalt. Todd, you still get to fix the grass. And then it's all patched back. So these are numbers that you give you an idea of the cost to get this done. Really a rough order of magnitude. So that is the cost to buy, I guess, 15 decibels worth of quality and enjoyment. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Miller.
Yeah, since I was the one that raised this issue 2 meetings ago, I asked Rudy to give me the opportunity to respond first to this. I have gone back to the people who were complaining about this to me, and none of them support spending this kind of money to fix that kind of problem. Just not worth it. There is no return on investment other than goodwill for the community.
Yeah.
But I personally think you guys have over-engineered the solution. Okay? I used to work at a very large government laboratory, and we had the appropriate government bureaucracy with that. And we had this phrase about trying to impose global solutions to discrete problems, which is what I see is happening here. Okay, 2 of the courses, Deer Valley and Desert Trails, have 2 patios, one of which has a golf ball machine on it and one of which does not, separated by a whole building. Okay, if it really bothers you, go to the patio that doesn't have a ball machine on it. So you can take 2 of those machines off your list. Stardust, again, the machine is not on the patio. I was there yesterday. People were dropping balls. It's not a problem. Echo Mesa is a problem. I don't know Gary's Trail Ridge problem. Okay, Gary's the president of Trail Ridge, says it's not a problem. So really and truly, you have one course that you need to do something to mitigate. There is an alcove right around the corner at Echo Mesa that has a power outlet in it. I assume these machines are 110. So there's an alcove. I couldn't tell you how deep it is, but it is literally around the corner. And Pat, I got a picture if you're trying to place that. Okay, so the question that was asked to me when I went back to the people who were complaining about it is, why can't they just move it around the corner and plug it into that power outlet? A whole lot cheaper than $30,000. Whether you put an enclosure on it or not, I mean, that's not anything that people were asking to have happen, okay? They were asking for the noise to be abated. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at that. You might have to extend the platform a little bit to set the machine on. But that would certainly probably not cost $30,000. You already have power. Okay, I don't know if there's an issue about whether you can fill the top of the machine or not. But again, the feedback I would simply give you is nobody thinks this is a good idea to spend this kind of money. I certainly don't support it. I think part of the frustration with the people that were complaining to me about this was that there was a commitment made 2 years ago to fix the problem, and nothing ever happened. And so I think there's some unhappiness with the responsiveness about that. Okay, that's a separate issue. But I would encourage the committee just to table this discussion topic right now and just be done with it. Not take it to the board. The general manager said he wasn't going to spend money without board approval. I don't think you take it to the board. I don't think it's worth the cost, given that it's really a very simple, single problem to deal with. So I would encourage you to go back amongst yourselves, talk about that some more. And if you want to come back at the beginning of next year with a solution that you've had more time to think about, then by all means, please do that.
Any other questions?
Mr. Eigner?
Yes, and I know Gary said that Trail Ridge wasn't an issue. It is sometimes, and so is Echo Mesa. But the people I've talked to who have an issue with it, it's not the occasional person that's dropping the balls. It's when they've cleared the driving range and you've got the person, and it goes on for several minutes as they keep dumping the buckets in, and that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. But it's not a 15 seconds of dropping the ball. It's 5 or 6 or 10 minutes of people loading the thing. And sometimes you'll see people on the patio when that starts happening, they just get up and leave. So that's my input on it. I think that might be, if there's a way to get that, situation moved to a different time when the patio is not as full or something like that.
I would offer one other comment. Yeah, the noise is an irritation, okay, but there's a lot of things in life that irritate people, okay? I'm more concerned about the balls that spit out of the front of the machines. And then I see people who are a lot older than I am try and chase those balls across the parking lot, okay? And we all know that if you watch the golf cart drivers around here, some of them are not the most attentive people I've ever seen. And I have witnessed at least once somebody almost getting taken out by a golf cart because they were chasing a golf ball down. So I would really think it would be somewhat simple to put a flap on the front of that machine so that it would contain the balls. I think, in fact, we had somebody from the metal shop offer to do that. I don't know if that's a warranty issue about us messing with the machines or a service contract issue. And I don't know if it's a problem any place other than Echo Mesa, but, you know, the machine as it sits now, it spits out, it hits off the sidewalk, there's a slope, it rolls across the parking lot. So I would really, from a safety perspective, I think that's something you guys ought to take a look at.
Could you flip back to your slide that's got the decibel levels on it, please?
That's the,
Decibel levels? Okay. You're talking about user experience. In all of these situations, pool, bowling, and whatever the bottom one is, the noise is part of the user's experience. When you roll that ball down the alley, you want to hear those pins jump and crack. Okay, same thing with pool. You want to hear those balls crack. So I don't think it's a fair comparison. And the other thing is, on these other sports, the noise is expected. Okay, you expect when you do this, there's going to be noise. The thing about having the ball machines on the porches is you don't expect it. It just, whoa. Someone comes in and puts the thing in, and all of a sudden it goes off.
Yeah.
I think it's a different, it's not apples and apples.
well, to be as fair as I can, the pitch you got from me was the best I could to be positive. Okay, now, if I were being fair, I'd give the negative. I'd say that's a customary sound. I've been in an industry where I dealt with sound on an interior context. We usually spent around 20 grand to deal with a sound issue, and every time in my 20 years of doing it, they move the person. The issue is to provide equal access. We have ADA federal laws that tell us what to do when someone's affected by noise at a level that should be okay. Give them equal access. Provide them another seat. So there's options. You know, you've suggested different locations. There's different ways. This is only one way to skin a cat, and this is the most expensive way to skin a cat. So, and I appreciate your, I've sat across the desk many a time looking at my numbers. Usually it's in comparison to something. You probably can't find a project like this. So it'd be hard to compare it. But it is a lot of money for what it would accomplish. But the goal depends on what you guys decide. That's where I love to be neutral. You guys get to decide what is best for the community. And you've had some comments. Are there any more comments or questions?
Do you know how many ball baskets are dispensed daily?
I don't. You can see I got into the weeds, but I didn't get that far.
No, I'm just curious because I've been at other courses where you pay your fee or you check in and you're given a basket of balls. There's no dispensing. I mean, there are options besides these expensive ball machines. Just saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So the two at Grandview and Pebblebrook that have already gone out there, do they absolutely need to be covered? Is that money that needs to be spent, or is?
Yes, we need to cover those because of the environment that they're in, irrigation, sunlight. Those are touch screens, so anything we can do to cover those up will help.
And just for everyone's info, they've got about 12 years of useful life left. So it's, the protection would be necessary.
Just a couple comments. It relates to moving the machine where it currently is. At Desert Trails, I talked with a group I golf with, and it was interesting that they were more concerned about older folks dispensing the balls at Desert Trails and then trying to go down the stairs hanging onto the balls, and they said it's an accident waiting to happen. Now, there is a little cutout at the bottom of the stairs. It's not covered, and I have no idea the electrical piece, but you wouldn't be taking it across. So that might be something just, just to look at as far as that. And
Comment on that
What?
is the old machines were there in that cutout, but they faced in that southwest direction, and that's where we had to keep replacing the LCD LED screens because it faces that summer hot sun. And so that's an option for us, but we'd have to configure it so that we can move that in a different direction.
It might be interesting to put the ball machine where the ice machine is and switch the ice machine down, because then those with the balls would use the ramp to go down. I just thought of that.
Any other comments?
There's some online comments.
Let's,
This is
do those, yeah.
again, for Mr. Bagnato. The machines were originally budgeted at $7,000, but came in at $12,000. We spent money to rearrange the ice and ball machine at Trail Ridge. Now we want to double the cost and relocate them? Question mark. Another one from him. How does this make any sense to the residents? This needs to be put to bed today. Mr. Benedetti, you're right, Frank. The blatant disregard to the original budget is astonishing. Somebody needs to pay, and I know it might going to be me. That doesn't make any sense, but that was his comment.
The budget on the range machines hadn't changed. It was the same. So unless we're going back years and years and years before we bought these, but no, this is what we projected for cost.
I was just reading his comment.
So I support David's recommendation to table this.
Anyone in the audience? So
I do have a question. When's the next parking lot that's going to be redone of the courses that don't have the machines moved?
We have a Palm Ridge Recreation Center is getting done, and my apologies, I forget which golf course, but there's
Okay.
one that hasn't been done yet, and I'm both trying to get those both teed up so that I could either hit them at the beginning of summer or at the end. But it depends on
Could we
closure dates as
consider
well.
raising this question again for that course that's going to have the paving redone?
Well, it's just a seal coat. It's not, the paving is not being removed.
So they've
they're-
all been recoated?
Yep. It's just a seal and restripe for both Palm Ridge and the other pro shop that I can't recall.
So Trail Ridge has the conduit. When they did the parking lot, they did that because we weren't ready to move them. So that's been put out to the edge of the park or edge of the driving range. The rest of it just has to be done, the electrical. So Trail Ridge would be real easy to do.
Okay, I have one recommendation to table this item, and I would add to that we would then make this one of our priority items for the committee when it reestablishes after July 1st, and to look at this if there's potential better solutions at far less cost, and that would potentially solve, or at least reduce the noise to some degree. Do I have a consensus from the committee to table this for now? Okay, that will be our decision. Thank you. 4.02, an update on the Grandview furniture procurement.
All right, very good. This is in regards to the furniture, the patio furniture over at Grandview Golf Course. Owner-operator Jeff Smith, myself, and Julie Klieger met yesterday to talk about this in more detail. I think I'll have Julie weigh in on this in just a moment, but we looked at options, looked what Jeff as an operator needs, what his desires are, what his capacity is. It was a good meeting to hear his side. And I'll just share this because this came from Jeff, and he's been here over 20 years. And it sounds like the philosophy or the change in equipment at the Crooked Putter has changed over the years. At first, when he first became a tenant there, the rec center owned all the grills, the tables inside, the refrigerators, the dishwasher, all the equipment the rec center owned. And then as he progressed through this 20-year period, it switched out as the equipment was in need of repair or replacement. If he wanted it, he had to purchase it. So he ended up purchasing all of his equipment. So as we stand right now, the only thing that he doesn't own in that facility are the tables and chairs that we purchased 12 years ago from him, for him. So everything in there is his. So it was a good conversation on that. So in the meantime, we've been able to locate where we purchased the 12-year-old furniture. They still make it, believe it or not. They still sell it. They've got limited supplies due to tariffs because they didn't reorder. Because of that, it comes overseas. Cost has gone up 50 to 60% per piece. So that's an option. And one of the requirements that Jeff really needs over there in order to service his clientele are 46-inch round tables. And that's important for him because not all of groups are foursomes. He's got fivesomes, sixsomes, groups that come out. So that maximizes his needs. He's very willing to change that, mix it up, get some square tables over there. The pricing, as I mentioned, is significantly higher, so this might not be an option that we want to pursue. So we've met with another sales rep that sold us our patio furniture. That doesn't meet his needs, but she's in the process of looking further, and then we'll reach outside of her to see if there's something that can accommodate everybody's needs. So we're in the middle of finding out what the price is. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, I'd say it would. In looking at what they need to fulfill all their clients, they will probably need 88 chairs. And we talked about that the chair situation, especially around the tables, as is now, are, is decrepit a good word for it?
Be fair.
So a total of 88 chairs would be needed. That would be 64 for current powder-coated tables and 24 for the new 6 36-inch square tables. So it'd be a total of 88 chairs. I don't know how much further you want to go, but they also have the white folding tables that they put out, the 8-foot, 6 8-foot tables. Jeff had to go and purchase himself, and I'm not sure how many years ago. It might have been 8 years ago. They're called wedding chairs, and if you've ever sat in those chairs, they are now rusted. They're losing their bolts. They've become it's a safety hazard. It is for safety. So approximately 80 sturdy, whether they're white, black, or whatever color they come in, are needed for those. He needs those for Tuesday ladies, Wednesday men, fish night, whether it's Wednesday or Friday. So those are some of the issues or areas that we looked at and propose.
Yeah.
That those are the things that we looked at needed. Now, he loves the round tables. Whether we all like them or not, they work best for Jeff. That's his business. I heavily suggested square tables to mix and match, and he said he could do that. In addition, there are some ways of configuring the tables to get maximum. That oblong table can serve 8 to 10 people. So he liked that idea. So that's kind of where we're at. That's a synopsis of what I came up with. Anything else? Questions?
Right, so just doing a, adding to what he has already, 88 chairs, let's say. They've only got a couple tabletops and then an additional elongated table at $900. You're looking at over close to $23,000. But that doesn't get to the maximum seating for him. So that's why we want to go down a different avenue, because we think we can supply him with something that's more cost effective and gives him more seating. So that's where we're starting, but I think we can do better than that.
Is there money in the 25-26 budget already for this?
We've got some dollars for this from the purchase of the existing tables and chairs at the other patios. We had savings there, so we can use that. I'm under the impression it's 20 to 25,000, possibly. Right. So we had 70,000 budgeted and we spent 41, 46. So we do have a few dollars that we can.
So I've lost the thread on this. Does the terms of our lease with him require us to buy his furniture for him? You're shaking your head, yes?
I don't believe it does, no.
Okay. You're getting an evil look from your partner there next. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's been an evolution over the years, and my last recollection of reading the lease doesn't indicate that every 3 years or 5 years or 10 years that we're going to buy him new patio furniture or that we're responsible for anything like that.
Okay, so the white tables and the wedding chairs are his or ours? Okay, so if we made this investment, are we going to renegotiate the terms of his lease?
That would be something to discuss, but absolutely. I mean, he's been a great business partner of ours.
Right. We don't want to run him off, obviously.
No, yeah. Having him leave over patio furniture is not where we want to go.
Yeah, but I do agree. I mean, having sat in those chairs, and I'm not a small person, so I'll acknowledge that, but having sat in those chairs, they are dangerous. And again, I've asked the question before, if there's an accident out there and somebody collapses one of those chairs and impales themselves on one of the pieces of metal, who's liable? And I think the answer is us. So that needs to be taken into account.
Any other questions? So my question will be, Pat, what then are you proposing to do?
Sure. So going forward, we're collecting all this information. It was a great informative meeting with Jeff to find out what he really truly needs. And he's willing to work with us in so many ways here. So my goal here is to do the legwork, the pricing out, keep him in the loop, continue to share this with both the rec center as far as the cost standpoint and what his options are, and go forward with that. And then down the road, if we need to represent this, great, we can. But I'm hoping that sometime during the summer months we can put this to bed. And again, my feeling on this is Jeff's world, and he knows that this is kind of a topic that needs to be rectified, and he's willing to do that, but it needs to be done sooner rather than later. So moving forward, pricing.
So you mentioned 88 chairs for the patio and 80 chairs for the white tables. So are you going to get rid of all of the chairs that are there now? Because like you said, they're in what was the word, whatever, bad shape. And is 100, what is that, 68 chairs work for Jeff?
So the chairs that you're seeing would be part of, those are temporary chairs and tables. You won't see those in July and August because the demand's not there. But when he needs them, that's what he'll pull out to support his business. Yes. Yeah, that's the goal. Whether or not we get there, it might be 140, it might be 150. I don't know.
Do we have any questions or comments online?
We do, but I'm not going to read it. It contains some not nice language. The question is, why so gruesome?
So at this point, I guess, Pat, it's back in your court. I mean,
Yes, I'll do follow-up on this. Okay? But I'm hoping this will be put to bed before we reconvene in the fall, right? That's our goal.
well, you can put it to bed if you have the money to do what
Sure.
you intend to do.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Next item, 4.03. Pat will kind of give us a, I know you have a couple of slides for how 9-hole play actually is advantageous to us.
Right, and this was at a request of one of the committee members. It's on the back end of my presentation. There we go. All right, so the question was asked is how are we doing with back nine early morning tee times? And so this, as you delve into this, or as I delved into this more, there's a lot of factors involved. Time of the year, courses, yeah, there's a lot of variables to this. So I tried to put a couple slides together, and for anybody that wants more additional information, we've got it. But a couple things on the overview. Residents can play 9 holes of golf at any time. You just can't book 9 holes on the lottery or online. You're going to have to call. That's an all or nothing component of the software that we have. If we open that up to 9 holes, the mix that we would have every day would be totally different. So we've elected to keep it at 18 holes. And the 9-hole play or twilight play, because twilight and 9-hole are at the same rate, can be addressed at that time. So that's one thing. If you play 9 holes in the middle of peak time of day, there's anywhere from $1 to $5 upcharge, depending on who's paying. $1 for our residents, $5 for public. So if somebody wants to play a 10 o'clock 9-hole round of golf, knock yourself out, but you're going to pay a few dollars more. We encourage 9 holes of play early in the morning off the back 9, and twilight and super twilight. And it wasn't that many years ago, we saw a huge jump in rounds in twilight and super twilight due to the pricing that we had put in play that year. And the graphs that I'm going to show you are January through March information. Now, here's where part of this gets a little dicey, because in January, we start at 8 o'clock. In February, it's 7:30, and then March, it's 7. So just like our 18-hole players, not everybody wants to play January at 8 o'clock because it's still pretty chilly. So the next slide, here we've got 2 slides, and there needs to be some explanation here. This is 3 years worth of data with 3 months. So the total revenue was 82,000 plus. January, as you can see, doesn't start until 8 o'clock because that's when the first tee time starts. February started at 7:31, and March started at 7:01. So if you ever see a 7:01 or a 7:16, those odd tee times, those are always back nine tee times. That's how we differentiate it on the tee sheet. When the starter's checking you in, they know where you're going. So those are the months and the starting times. This next slide is for the 3 fiscal years with the courses combined. Okay? So what you've got there is rounds of golf for 2023, 24, and 25. So, and we can go deeper in this, same January, February, March, but that's what it looks like. You can see we're growing the back 9 rounds out of this, right? But this is not a huge part of our business. It's anywhere from 15% to 35 to 40% as far as occupancy. So we're not filling these times up. And there's really 2 reasons. One, most of our residents want to play 18 holes. Some of them don't want to play early. And it tends to be smaller groups, singles or twosomes, that take advantage of these tee times. We get foursomes every once in a while, but they're smaller groups. So going through this exercise, it became apparent that we're not at occupancy yet. We're growing this. But you can go through the week, and I'll even take this the next step. Wednesdays are not included in this because of shotguns for the men and all that kind of stuff. So to get down really in the deep weeds of this, you've got to look at it per course, per month, per day of the week, and you'll see some trends there. Interesting, this is a executive gig, if you will. Most of the rounds are coming from the executive golf courses. Less than an hour and a half to play, right? 9 holes. They can get in and out pretty quick. We don't see a lot of rounds at Grandview or Trail Ridge on the back 9. We see quite a few at Pebblebrook. Pebblebrook has ladies 9-holers. So that's in those numbers. So good exercise, Kathy, to go through. There's opportunities here, but the thing that's holding us back in growing this more and more and more is the technology of being able to book these tee times either through the lottery or online, because a person does have to call and book this tee time. Yeah, Dave?
So what is the utilization or the occupancy overall for the,
So going through
particularly
this,
the early morning?
yeah, going through this, it's about 33%.
If you had the capability of doing it, is this one of those products that would benefit from dynamic pricing of some kind? Where you could pay a little less because you're willing to go out in the morning on the back 9?
Yeah, 2 things. First, I would try it, being able to do it online, see what that true demand is. And then once we get that, then we'd go to the dynamic pricing. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone in the audience?
No questions. No questions online. There's just a couple people having conversations in the chat.
And then, if I may, one of the things that has come up, it's cropped up a couple conversations. Taking one of our executive golf courses, Stardust comes up just because it typically doesn't crack. I've seen it as high as 5 out of the 7 in yearly round counts, but it's typically the second or third most played executive. Taking one of those courses and configuring it in 9-hole fashion. So you got 2 9-holes. And if you wanted to play 18, you could. You just have to book 2 tee times. Working it with that environment. And then another topic, which is interesting, we tried this a few years ago, I'd like to revisit it, is making our executives 10-minute intervals on tee times. And the purpose behind that, and for those of you that have seen my pace of play presentation, we have golf courses or executives that have par 3s that take longer than 9 or 10 minutes to play a par 3. Echo Mesa number 4, for example. Echo Mesa number 17, for example. The Arizona Golf Association said that it takes more than 10 minutes to play from the white tees for a foursome. So the problem becomes, and if you play Echo Mesa a lot, you understand that we must be on number 4 because there's 2 groups on the tee box and there's a group on the green, right? We're loading the freeway faster than we can play a hole. And so when you do that, it's eventually going to back up. And so if we go to 10 minutes, I would really like to try to do that for an extended period of time, be it a season, a 6-month period, excuse me, and see what the benefits of that. Now, there's a revenue component to that side, less golfers per hour going off. But if the pace of play was consistent throughout the whole day, I think that day might be extended with golfers rather than cutting off at 3 o'clock or 2:30. So it's a thought.
Anyone else? Questions for Pat?
Pat, this is a technology question.
Yeah.
When was the last time, I guess it would be golf operations technology has been updated? Because you're limited. I hear you say you're limited in some things that you can do. I also know that the other day I wanted to change my tee time. Let's say it was on pick a day, Thursday, and to play in the afternoon and instead in the morning. Because I have a tee time, I can't go online and see it. I have to call. The only way, so if I want to go and search for an available tee time, it says, sorry, you can't. You have a tee time that day. So that's a glitch in the system.
Are you saying you can't see the tee sheet?
No, I'm just saying I can't see the available tee times no matter what course. I can go to the member tee sheet and go course by course by course by course, trying to find a spot.
Right.
Where if I could just say what's available, which is really your first option, it won't let me do that. So that's what leads me to a software update or a technology change. You don't even need a software update. You might have somebody in-house that
And
can
those
do
are
that.
days in which you already have a tee time.
That's correct.
Right.
So my only option is to call
Right.
or,
Correct.
go tee sheet by tee sheet by tee sheet.
And you understand why they do it that way, because
Why would, so what's the problem then if I decided I wanted to move my tee time?
right. So the reason they do
That's a
it
software,
from a generic standpoint is the fact that now you can book multiple tee times, right?
no,
That's what they're trying to prevent.
yeah, no, I understand they're trying to prevent that.
Right.
So what if I wanted to play 2 times a day? But that's
Correct.
okay.
So that's what they're trying to prevent. But with that said, there's ways that we should be able to improve in that area too. Yeah.
We do have one other online question. Have we thought about doing a 14-hole round of golf? We could put the cost at 75% of a normal 18-hole round. I know there are a lot of people out there that get tired, like Frank. Could this help?
So we've looked over the years. We've looked at trying to reconfigure. 6 was
Right.
a number that we kind of came through, but nothing comes back to the clubhouse at 6 holes. You can play Pebblebrook. You can play 1, 2, 3, 4, and then work your way to 9. But then you've got people that might be out ahead of you that you're cutting in front of. So there's some logistics, but it's an interesting thought, absolutely. And I think that's where we're trying to go with this 2 9-hole scenario. It might not be 14, but it's 9.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get them back to the clubhouse is what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
Well, that's it, Pat.
Okay.
Thank you. And
Thanks.
that brings us to our last item of business, which is simply a reminder that if anyone is interested in being on any committee next year, the deadline is May 15th for submitting an online application. I think one of the easiest ways to get to it is through the Sun City West website. Go under Governing Board, and then there's when you select that pull-down menu, you'll see a push tile for submitting an application.
We did have one comment that came in after Pat finished. This is from Mary Gaynette. We currently have a public player card for year-round play. Have you ever thought about having a public unlimited card for the summer months, July through September, to help offset costs?
Hasn't been discussed for a public unlimited card during the summer, no. Open to suggestions on that. I think I would gravitate more resident-centric than outside play-centric type deal. So.
Okay, any additional comments from Mr. Miller?
I would like to suggest that the committee give golf operations a summer homework assignment. I would like golf operations, I would recommend that they come back in September and tell the committee, whoever's on it at that point in time, their rank ordered top 3 priorities of things they could do to improve golf operations and the customer experience. Several of them, frankly, you know, I was just sitting here thinking, gosh, this is a great straight thing, because the discussion that we just had about changing software and the 2 9-holes, doing those kind of things, all kind of tee into that. And I would look at it again from since this is a policy committee recommending to the board, we look at those proposed changes or improvements in the context of, are they covered by an existing policy? If so, which one, and does it need to be amended? Or do you want to propose something that would require a new policy that the committee would discuss and then be forwarded to the board for approval or not? I mean, I guess I would go back, and I'm looking at the 9-hole, 2 9-hole things on the same course and multiple tee times, and I'm trying to decide how I feel about that. And whether that in fact is governed by, is that purely an operations decision, or is that a policy decision? And I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Tee sheet itself, operations, based upon what's going on that day. But yeah, it's always a good exercise to go through, absolutely. Trail Ridge, for example, does double tee starts for their men's club. Other men's club do shotgun starts. Ladies at times do shotgun starts. So it's the chartered clubs direct us on what they'd like to do that day, and we make it happen. But the single tee start that we typically use serves 2 purposes. Maximizes the tee sheet, but also allows Todd to get out there ahead of the golfers, take care of whatever maintenance issues that he has, fertilization, raking bunkers, what have you. The double tees and the shotguns stretch his staff really quick. So, yeah, absolutely.
So I made that as a recommendation for the committee, so I assume you have to get consensus or not from the committee to do that.
We can certainly do that. Committee, do we have consensus to have, over the summer, have golf operations take a look at what their 3 priority items would be for next year, of which a couple of things were just recommended. So do we have consensus?
Consensus.
Okay. Sure. Pat? We have consensus. Thank you very much.
And Todd, if you don't want to feel left out, you could do the same thing.
It should be.
Okay, anyone else on the committee? Any comments? I don't know, does anyone foresee us having any business for a June meeting? Okay, so I will give notification that our June meeting will cancel. And I certainly hope everyone considers filling out an application for being on the committee next year. And I understand, Al, you might, is this three consecutive years? So I thank you. I thank everyone else for giving of your time this year and efforts and making this a successful committee at this point. Anyone in the audience? Anything to add? With that, our meeting in June is now canceled, so this will be our last meeting of the year. And we'll call this meeting adjourned at 2:45. Oh, I did. I thought I did. Okay, meeting adjourned at 2:45. Thank you very much.